One thing you never hear motivational speaker talk about is what do you do when you feel completely demotivated, down on your luck, depressed, or just completely deflated? What do you do then? Because it's easy to be making videos when you feel high in your luck, you're doing well, you're breaking records, and it's very exciting. What's not exciting is when you're down on your luck, nothing's working out, and nothing seems to be happening, and you feel completely alone. But that's when most people need the encouragement, and that's when most people need the know how what to do then. And I have been through this several times in my life, in Eastern Europe when, unemployment was 40% where we lived. And then when I moved to the US, I was completely by myself, not even knowing the language. And when my sister passed away, it was just a really, really hard time. And you need to have some kind of a plan what to do when you feel completely alone and defeated and deflated, because you won't always be riding high on success. So let me tell you a couple of things that had worked for me when I felt defeated and I felt like nothing was going right and I wasn't sure what directions to go in. And one of those lessons is actually coming from boxing. I've been boxing since I was a little kid. And one thing, when you beat back into the corner, it's so easy to want to go down and just give up and the round is over and you lost and that's it. But you can't do that. You can't be just, whining to your coach that, oh, I just got beat today. No, you can't be shutting up and just taking the punches. That's when you need to be moving. When you beat back into the corner, you need to be moving side to side and back and forth, and you need to be throwing punches, or you are going to get beat down and you're not going to be able to get up. So it's very important when you beat back into the corner, you don't just stand there and just take it, but you actually, what we learn in boxing, that you move around and you start throwing punches at your opponent, and you don't just stand there taking it. And that's exactly what you need to be doing when you feel downcast and defeated. You just need to be moving around and throwing punches at your opponent, and that's your depression, that's your loneliness, that's your sadness. So, whenever you're feeling lonely and miserable and awful, you want to seek your companions of people who are doing the same. But you can't do that. That's not throwing punches. You need to be seeking companionships for people who are a little bit more motivating. And if you don't have that, you just simply need to make some kind of a movements, just like in boxing. You can be standing at the corner. You need to make some movements and throw some punches at your opponent. And that's basically doing some kind of action when you feel super depressed. So what are the things that you could be doing then? Exercise is one of the best things. That's one thing that you can do no matter how you feeling, where you are, and you just need to force yourself to do some kind of exercise. Go for a walk, or pick up a dumbbell, or just get a boxing glove and throw some punches at the punching bag. You need to be doing some kind of exercise, because that will get your mind out of that bad place where you are and focus on your breathing, focus on the weights, focus on the exercise, focus on the punches, and that kind of gets your mindset out of basically feeling sorry for yourself, because that's just being a whiny little bitch. You can't be just, complaining. You need to focus on something else. And when you're exercising, you're actually focusing on not on your sadness, but actually to improve something. And that's going to get the ball rolling to get you out of that sad mood. So I recommend every time you feel sad, every time you feel depressed, get up, go for a walk, get up, do some push-ups, get up and do some punches to the punching bag, meditate, focus on your breathing, and that's gonna get you started. It's like shelling up when somebody's beating you back to the corner. You can't just stand there and take it. You gotta throw some punches, you're gonna make some movements and get out of there. And that's what the exercise is going to do. You gotta do that, and you have to force yourself to do it. You can't be just sitting and whining. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. So go for a walk, get a friend, go for a coffee, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, get out, get some sunshine. The other thing that's really good is stimulate some of your senses. And what I mean by senses is the touch. Make sure you feel something. For example, take your shoes off, walk on the grass. Also some smells, get some essential oils. Also vision, look around you and kind of acknowledge things that you see. This is why walks are great. Don't just walk, but actually try to recognize some trees. Try to identify some trees. That will get your mindset off of feeling sorry for yourself into something else. When you see a bird, try to identify it. When you see a shrub or a plant, try to identify that. Okay, what kind of bird is that? What kind of tree is that? How cold is the temperature? So feel your senses, temperature, touch, sense, like the smell, vision, hearing. So pay attention to your surrounding, and that's going to help you get out of that mood of feeling sorry for yourself and feeling sad. And once you kind of get going, it's kind of like throwing punches at your opponent when you're being beat back. Once you kind of get moving, it's easier to get moving along. You get the momentum on your side. So you keep focusing on your senses, keep focusing on, on your exercises, and do some kind of little exercise. It doesn't have to be a big workout. It could be just a walk, could be just some push-ups, it could be just some dumbbell exercises, something simple. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be just a bike ride, but do something that kind of gets you outside and gets your senses motivated. Now, once you kind of get over that, then you need to think about your 3-year outcome. Remember, we talked about the 3-year outcome that you want, and break it down into something little that you can do today. Okay, what can I do today that's going to get me closer to that 3-year outcome that I want in my life 3 years from now? And maybe it's as low as going for a bike ride. Maybe it's as low as making a phone call, but then it gets your head out of that bad place where you are. So it's very important to kind of focus on that too. So first you get into your exercise routine, you get into your senses. You can't be shelling up. You can't be just taking the punches. You got to move and move out of there. And also focusing on your 3-year outcome and what is it today that I can do? What is the small thing I can do today that will get me closer to my 3-year outcome? And lastly, if you have some kind of a tragic event in your life, for example, when my sister passed away, that was really difficult. What you need to do is build new memories. A lot of people try to push the memories down. Like if you lost a loved one, you try to push that down and try not to remember it, try to forget it and move on. That's not going to work. What you need to do is build some new memories around that old memory and that sad feeling you have. So you need to work on that. You need to get some new experiences built around that grief, and that's why you're feeling depressed and that's why you're feeling down, which hopefully is not the case. But if that's happening, make sure that you don't kind of force that down, but you try to build some new memories around that. If you could say that, okay, if my sister was here, she wouldn't want me to be laying around feeling sorry for myself. She would want me to get out and throw some punches and just get moving and be successful. So those are some new memories you building around that grief, building around that bad memory, that traumatic memory, and that I think would really help. So if you do these 3 things, I think that would really help you. Again, try to not shell up, not just take the punches. You gotta get out, do some exercises, stimulate your senses, feeling, touch, sense, vision, hearing, smell, things like that, and then build some new memories around your traumatic or grieving event. And hopefully that will help you get out of your sad moment, your depression, as well as feeling sorry for yourself, because that's the only way you can kind of move on. So I wish you luck. Let me know if this has helped, and if you try boxing, that would really help. Boxing has taught me a lot of life lessons, and there's a lot of great lessons in boxing. So if you haven't done any boxing, maybe try that out.